Sometimes people stretch themselves way too thin because they're trying to do everything that they heard about in a blog post or in a virtual summit or in a YouTube video. And at the end of the day, it's better to pick some things and go really deep on them, test them out, make them work, than to try to be average at best at everything.
So be a specialist. Do I hear you saying go in deep on it, figure it out,
Yep.
see how you could really leverage it for your business instead of 20 different things that you're going to spread yourself and probably not be an expert in?
Yeah, exactly. Or tools. Sometimes people will sign up for a tool thinking the tool is going to solve all of their problems. Pick XYZ software tool. I don't want to pick on any of them because it's really more the mindset of us using it. It comes down to pick the tool, figure out how to use that tool, and give it months. But sometimes, and I've been guilty of this over the years, of you hear in a podcast, someone's like, this is going to revolutionize whatever. Like, oh my God, I got to sign up for that. Get the 14-day trial. Here's my credit card. I'm going to be with it. And then realize 2 months later, I'm like, I don't know that I've ever really looked at this. So,
You're listening to What the Tech.
Welcome to the What the Tech podcast, where we talk about business and office technology and put our 20 years of expertise to discussing trends and issues impacting the workplace.
Hi there, it's Rolando.
And I'm Dave.
Hey, and welcome to the What the Tech show, everybody. Today we are doing part 5 in a series that we call How to Grow Faster on Amazon. So today we have special guest Kevin Sanderson, who calls himself an Amazon marketing e-commerce nerd. You know, what's interesting about that, Dave, is on my LinkedIn, I call myself an Amazon nerd. So I love that he's put e-commerce nerd in his self-proclaimed title. So tune in today to hear Kevin's insights on how to make the most out of your e-commerce business.
Yeah, really looking forward to this interview. Listen, before we get into it, I just want to give a big, bold shout out to Andrew Berg and his team at Berg.
There we go.
Berg Advisors, Berg Advisors are out near Philly. And when these accounting champs took the leap to go virtual, do you know who they called, Rolando?
Yeah, who did they call?
Us.
Yes.
Let me tell you. So we helped them to get virtual. They moved out of their physical office. I'm sure he's able to save on some rent there. I'm sure his employees are happy being able to work from anywhere. And I'll tell you what was great was after the move, Andrew teamed up with us to create an amazing video testimonial that you must check out on our YouTube channel. So big props to the folks over at Berg Advisors. Also, need to give big props to the one and only Stephen Pope.
Yes.
CEO of My Amazon Guy. I'll tell you, I've been living vicariously through Mr. Pope this past week. He was visiting his team out in the Philippines. I saw food that I wanted. I saw activities that I wanted to do. I saw a climate that I wanted to be in.
What about that jet lag, Dave? I saw pictures of him laying horizontally in the airport. I don't know if you'd want that, though.
It's a 13-hour time difference from the East Coast of the U.S. Yeah, I've never experienced that kind of jet lag. But listen, we had him on as a guest. It was really great. If you're an Amazon seller, you absolutely can't miss his episode. Rolando, he straight up showered us with golden nuggets from the clouds. It was really, really good.
It was raining so hard that you got to wear your hard hat with those golden nuggets raining from the clouds, right?
That's right. So if you want to listen to those episodes and if you want to check out previous guests, you can check those all out at circuitloops.com.
Awesome, Dave. Thank you very much. And big props to all those folks that were on earlier. Hey, you know, Dave, we're Amazon nerds here at Global Teck, and I'm excited about our next guest, Kevin, who is the VP of Marketing at My Amazon Guy, and he's the founder of Maximizing E-commerce. Needless to say, Kevin has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this arena. He's been in the game for a while. He's got his own podcast. He's got a blog, and he's got a lot to say on what's happening with Amazon today, because it's not your granddaddy's Amazon or even your kid's Amazon. You know what? Let's bring him on and stop talking about it and have him tell yourself, let's bring out Kevin Sanderson.
All right. Hey, Kevin.
Hey,
Gentlemen, thank you for having me. It
awesome.
was
Thank
quite
you.
the intro.
We
I
love
should
that you could.
slice that out and use it myself.
We'll let you use it.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll get it to you. Hey, and before we get into it with Kevin, listen, quick read from our sponsor.
This podcast is brought to you by Global Teck Worldwide, your technology office experts that's been around for 20 years, providing trusted, personalized office IT solutions. Check them out at amazon.com/TECK. That's amazon.com/TECK.
Still paying for slow, outdated business internet? Why would you do that? Everything is so expensive in 2022. But listen, you might not realize you can go to circuitloops.com, instant quotes to easily compare with what you're paying for and find the upgrade that's right for you. It's that easy. Go to circuitloops.com. All right, back to us and our interview with Kevin.
That's right. Thank you, Dave, for that read. And Kevin, so I would say you're a jack of all trades. Yes, you're an e-commerce nerd, which for a lot of us that start, you're wearing all the hats. You're the guy taking out the garbage and you're taking the returns. But before I ask you about all of the insights you have, I got to know, what are you nerding out on right now from a tech standpoint? Is there an app or software or something that you just like, it's consuming my time?
Probably ChatGPT,
Mm-hmm.
the AI software that lets you. I still don't understand how it works, like fundamentally. Like I get the general concept that it's looking for language patterns, but I was watching some interview with a computer scientist named Lex Fridman, and he was saying, we don't truly understand how it works. We just know it kind of does. So it's kind of scary when you think about how much the robots can figure stuff out with little direction compared to what a human would need and come back with really good results. I don't think it's 100% you can just run with it, but it's phenomenal what it's able
What is
to
it
do.
that you like about ChatGPT? It could do a lot, but is there a thing or things that you have found like just fascinating that you're like, now I can't live without?
Yeah. So some of it is I just love playing around with some of the prompts. Summarize is a good one. Let's just use for Amazon sellers. You could take a whole bunch of reviews, copy and paste them into ChatGPT, summarize the top 3 things people liked, summarize the top 3 things people didn't like. Now, of the things people didn't like about this product, now rewrite that as a competitive advantage as benefit statements. Now incorporate those into the bullet points. I mean, just amazing the things you're able to do with it relatively quickly.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good.
It's in the language it writes it in is good. You know, one thing I found when writing with ChatGPT, it liked adding a call to action that Amazon doesn't love. And we found this in Canada to be the case, where it would say, you know, everything you just said as an advantage, and then go ahead and buy this today or something to that effect. They was getting rejected out of our A+ content. They did not like that. So we had to remove it. And in the prompt, which for those that don't know, the prompt is the thing you're telling ChatGPT, like act as a content writer and spit out, like you said, this summary. You got to tell it in that prompt, do not add a call to action at the end, because it almost always has it at the end of the paragraph or the last sentence.
Well, there's one way around that, and it's called the backspace button.
Ah, yeah. You could do that. I like it. I like it. Oh man, I'm nerding out on that right now.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely, let's just say it's 80 to 90% of the way there. To your point, there's things that are like, okay, I can't get away with including that, or that sounds off. But you can either one, tell it, please remove that statement, or amazing how it's able to figure that out, what you're even describing, or you just delete and, type over whatever it is.
There was a tip that I saw somebody give, and I can't remember who it was right now. I may have seen the TikTok on it. And he was explaining that one of the things that you could do to avert some of these things is at the end of the prompt, you want to put, do you understand? And it will come back and spit out, I am a writer of 20 years experience. I'm writing for Amazon A+ content, yada, yada, yada. And it spits back out a summary so that the moment you hit go and you tell it, yep, please do this summary like you were talking about.
Got it.
It's going to write it in the style or voice or prompts or everything else. So now before you hit go again, it's exactly going to be putting things into the context that you want it.
That's
that
interesting. So you're basically forcing it to summarize what
yeah,
it's doing before it does it,
yes,
which could
yeah,
save you time because then you could just hit stop generating and then
yeah, no,
rephrase it.
exactly. No, awesome. I'm nerding out on ChatGPT. I
Yeah.
know we've given it the name Eddie because ChatGPT 100 times a day is just insane. And around here, we just call him Eddie. So did you get Eddie to write that? All the different things that we're
Exactly.
doing.
Exactly.
So Eddie is the man.
Fewer syllables.
Yeah, we've
It's so
been
much easier to say, Eddie.
everyone on the team has been geeking out on this for a good 6 weeks. And each department is using it differently. One of the things that I like to do with it, I don't use it so much for writing as I do for summarization of articles. So I get a lot of info that comes my way and I want to read it, but I don't have all the time to read 500 words. So I'll just
Right.
cut, paste, put it in. I'll just say, Eddie, please summarize this in like 3 or 4 bullet points. And it just brings up what's most important so that I can get the gist of the article and then I can give my feedback to it. It's such a time saver.
No doubt.
Awesome.
And before we move off this topic, I don't know if you're using this as well, Kevin, but you can now integrate ChatGPT into Google Sheets. So for Amazon sellers who are doing a whole lot of stuff, we're doing translations we put it into Google Sheets, and you can get French for if you're doing in Canada, and you can do Spanish if you're doing translations in the US, which you have the ability to do that with A+ content, as well as for Mexico. It is really good at putting things into the right context when it comes to translating into those other languages. So if you're a seller and you are needing help with translations, Eddie, aka ChatGPT, does a really good job of that.
Like better than Google Translate?
Oh, please, by miles.
Like not even close.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's more like a speaking language. So, for example, for the Mexican market, which is still tiny, but it's still relatively important for us, in the prompt, I tell it to speak Spanish for the Mexican audience.
Oh, okay. That makes so
Right.
much sense. Yeah.
As well as if you're using it, let's say in A+ content for the US, you want to put Spanish for the American audience or something to that effect, or Spanish that uses the slang of an American audience. So it's going to pick up on that language nuance, as well as if you're doing in Canada, not just French, they'll translate to Canadian French, which is different than French from France, right?
Yeah. Or you could use that. I never thought about this, but to localize it for UK. So if you're selling in UK, please localize this for British.
Yes,
English.
British English instead of American English. I don't know about you, but I'm an avid fan of the Great British Bake Off. And they have things like they call biscuits. And I'm like, where's the biscuit? Well, it's not a biscuit,
That's the
right?
gravy.
It's
Where's
where's
the
the
gravy
gravy?
on
I mean,
that?
they don't have a word for cracker or cookie like we do. Things are biscuits, right? And
Yeah.
so if you're selling food and this is the best, most edible organic cookie, and you put that into the UK, nobody's really going to get that. But you put biscuit,
Right.
Eddie knows how to do that for you.
Got
Interesting.
Yeah, no, interesting. So let me ask you something else, Kevin. When it comes to Amazon, we all have picked up some things along the way that we know are things, oh my goodness, I should have never done that, or I'm never going to do that. I want you to fill in the blank on this one. Amazon sellers should never, and then blank. Again, Amazon sellers should never blank.
Amazon sellers should never feel that they have to do everything that everyone tells them to do.
Interesting. I like that one. Give me an example. What would you say that is common things that are being said that you ought to do this or this tactic or that, blah, blah, blah. What are some of those things that you're specifically never?
So I hold virtual summits that I bring on a lot of really smart people that know a lot of stuff. We'll just use PPC. So in May, I've got a PPC summit planned. And what will happen is I'll have a bunch of different speakers, let's say 20, 25 speakers that are all experts on PPC. And oftentimes they contradict each other. And what happens is sellers will say, I really like what person A said, and I like what person B said. But they're not going a mile deep and an inch wide on like what one speaker said. They just go a little bit of everything, and then they end up kind of contradicting
Okay.
their strategy. And then also just so I started selling in 2015, you guys have been doing it even longer than that. the levers that we had to pull were fewer than they are today.
Indeed.
Here comes a pro tip.
Sometimes people stretch themselves way too thin because they're trying to do everything that they heard about in a blog post or in a virtual summit or in a YouTube video. And at the end of the day, it's better to pick some things and go really deep on them, test them out, make them work, than to try to be average at best at everything.
So be a specialist. Do I hear you saying go into the thing, whether we were talking about ChatGPT and AI, go in deep on it, figure it out, see how you could really leverage it for your business instead of 20 different things that you're going to spread yourself and probably not be an expert in ChatGPT, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Or tools. Sometimes people will sign up for a tool thinking the tool is going to solve all of their problems. Pick XYZ software tool. I don't want to pick on any of them because it's really more the mindset of us using it. It comes down to pick the tool, figure out how to use that tool, and give it months. But sometimes, and I've been guilty of this over the years, of you hear in a podcast, someone's like, this is going to revolutionize whatever. Oh my God, I got to sign up for that. Get the 14-day trial. Here's my credit card. I'm going to be with it. And then realize 2 months later, I'm like, I don't know that I've ever really looked at this. So,
can I ask you about that tools? Because you're in this space for a while, and there's a lot of tools now today that weren't available just 3 years ago before the pandemic or 5 years ago. Is there a tool or tools that you would say are your go-to tools? You're not necessarily endorsing them, but you're saying these are the go-to tools for me.
I use Helium-10 like most of us do. And could I switch to another tool that probably could do just as good of a job and maybe even more? Yes. The challenge with most tools is they all have their pros and cons.
Indeed.
And so the challenge is if you find that one thing you don't like about the tool you're on, is it really worth switching and the learning curve to switch to go to another tool that might do a better job of that one thing? They're not going to advertise, here's the 5 things we do worse. Right.
No doubt.
Always challenge yourself before you switch tools, not just the cost and money, but the cost and mental focus of switching. Again, some of my maybe a little bit more Zen philosophy on tools and strategies.
I like it. It keeps you maybe a little bit more grounded, if I were to use a Zen word. All right.
Yes.
And,
yes.
Hair on fire because you can't manage any of those tools.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment that when we are using new tools, definitely that time it takes to understand the user interface. Where am I looking for the data? Just to get acclimated to the program itself definitely takes time. And once you conquer that, like with Helium-10, you've studied Helium-10 to bring something else into the mix. It may solve one problem, but like you said, it might open the door to some other problems. Kevin, I wanted to ask you a question. So we're expanding our offering of communication devices. So people know us for our hardware, headsets, speakers, cameras. It's all for communications. So we're looking to expand and offer complementary solutions in the services world for like UCaaS or CCaaS. So on the services side, do you see that Amazon can help to facilitate and sell complementary services to hardware? Is there an opportunity for us to use Amazon to grow and expand our offerings for services?
Gotcha. For people listening who aren't sure, including myself, what is the difference between UCaaS and CCaaS, just out of curiosity?
One is unified communications. The other is call center. So they're both voice communication platforms.
Like
Got it.
Vonage and Ring Central, those type of things.
Right.
Zoom.
Got it. So basically, you're looking to get people into your ecosystem, essentially, right? That they buy the product, they might buy your services. Now, my opinion on this has fluctuated over the years. I grew up in a corporate background where early on in my career, I worked for a large company. It was Magical with a mouse in Orlando. And there was this
Florida, that sandy place
right, exactly. The number one employer in Florida. And there was this always friendly, but you'll get fired for breaking the rules. And it was always just so peppy, understated. Like no one actually ever said it quite like that, but there were a lot of things you just knew you couldn't break the rules on. Amazon has a little bit of that of like you break the rules, you might get fired. But I have come to learn as long as you understand Amazon's sacred cows of don't ask for reviews, don't incentivize reviews. Reviews are sacred to Amazon because that's such a core part of their experience. Don't manipulate the algorithm. Like those are kind of the core tenets. And so I don't use product inserts. I say if you're going to use product inserts, be very cautious. But I used to be like almost don't put in a product insert, don't ask people to do anything with that product insert. I've almost come to believe, and this could all change tomorrow. So no one say Kevin said go do anything because I didn't.
Kevin told us stop doing that.
Yeah, Kevin said stop doing that or start doing that. I would say if you could get people onto some sort of email list, but you just got to be very cautious in how you do it and what you communicate to them, knowing full well that someone who's an executive at Amazon is going to sign up for your email list. You know, always have they used to call it the New York Times test.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes call it the Your Honor test. Whatever you're trying to justify, just put the words Your Honor on the front of that statement and see if you still feel the same way you did about what you're justifying. But then you also have to have the Amazon bot compliance test. No. And so if a bot at Amazon was reading this, what are they going to think? You're trying to get or you're trying to get one over on them. And so with that lens, you might be able to get people onto an email list, and the people who would purchase X might purchase Y. If you're not comfortable with it, don't even go down that road. If you are like, it could be worth risking it of at least getting people on an email list through a warranty or sign up for updates. You know,
warranty is still kosher, right? You could have it, let's just say an insert that says for extended warranty, go here. And if that was the language you put on there without, oh, and by the way, leave us a 5-star review. You can't do that anymore. But yeah, for an extended warranty, go here. That's still kosher?
No one's going to give you a straight answer at Amazon's. No one knows.
Amazon is trying to sell extended warranties on everything. It's like our listing is up there, and then buy the extended warranty is over here. We're not collecting that, so Amazon must be.
Yeah, that's a good point. So on that note, though, that's a little risky, but on the front end, you could always look at like doing ads. It's a loss leader, where even if you lost on, let's say, Facebook ads, but you collected the email address on the front end in order for people to get a coupon code, you own that customer now. In fact, Amazon will give you 10% for sending them to Amazon. Traffic. So there, now that goes into external traffic strategy. And in that case, that would make sense because you have a high ticket service you're looking to work on. If you're selling a calculator, you probably don't have a high ticket service that is the people that would buy the calculator would be highly likely to purchase, that it would be worth you doing Facebook ads at a loss to get somebody onto an email list in the hopes that you can somewhat liquidate some of that cost by getting them to buy on Amazon. So that would be a very white hat way of doing things that Amazon is going to pay you for 10% of the sale if the attribution link works correctly. But that would be, I would say, beneficial. Gray hats, people will argue to death whether or not it's white hat or black hat to have some level of opt-in on a insert card, which I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I personally don't use them, but I have come to see people doing them over the years. And as long as they're not asking for reviews, they never seem to get even their hand slapped.
Right.
And interesting. There's another one that's fairly new, Kevin. I would love to see if you've heard of this. When you buy a product today on Amazon, for a while now, before you return, if you're using your app or whatever, there's buttons, right? You could say, I want to return, I want to track, yada, yada. There's a button that would say get support, and you could get support from an Amazon employee, right? That would provide, quote, support. There is now the ability for that get support sanctioned by Amazon, and it goes to you on a landing page, And then you're able to dialogue outside of Amazon
Really?
with yes, 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 and yes. And there's no way to manipulate that button, but Amazon has an internal way for sellers that have signed up for that program. One, again, you're sending information to Amazon to bless it and give you. Then that support button now says get support, and it goes off to you to handle the post support questions and whatnot. So there is a kosher way to do that. I was talking to somebody at Amazon just this week, and I said, can you give us that same capability for post support, pre support, especially for us because we deal with devices and
Oh, yeah. In your
it
case,
get complicated. And I heard something like that may be in the works. They couldn't hold me to it. Yeah, we're going to release it next month, but there's rumblings about some possible chat support that's on a page on Amazon, and they can ask you the questions in real time. I would love for them to do that because that could also reduce returns, frustration, reduce friction, and customers can feel confident when they're getting what they want right up front rather than sometimes guessing. That's why people will buy 4 or 5 things because you're not sure if it's going to work.
I'll return the rest.
Yeah, exactly. As a seller, I don't want to deal with returns. And I can bet you that Amazon doesn't want to deal with more liquidated merchandise or any of the grading, so-called grading they do that, which is a great job anyhow. But anyways, I wanted to let you know that if you didn't know, there is a way to get some of that. And when you get that, you can collect the email at that point.
And the customers love it. The customers that we have, so we've been using it for about 4 or 5 months now. When the customers reach us, they reach us fast. And I would say 90% of them are so happy to be speaking to us and not be speaking to an Amazon call center employee somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
They're actually just taken back by it. They're so surprised that they're getting the support without calling 9 people, 4 or 5 trouble tickets. It's just click here for support. They come here, they see us, they can live chat, they can give us a call. It's all right there. It's really nice.
And what's interesting about that is when I worked at the Magical Mouse Company, one of the things they taught us was you never want to intentionally initiate this sequence, but guests or customers who had some sort of problem during their stay and it was resolved to their satisfaction, rated their experience at a higher level in surveys than those who had no problems at all. Because they got to see like, oh, okay, there's a human side to this business that they're willing to help me out. And so I would say for people who, especially if you have something where somebody buys, 1 headset and they might buy 50 more for a call center, they're going to be a lot more likely to buy those other 50 headsets if they saw, oh, I'm going to be supported in case there's an issue and they resolved it and they were friendly and I like them. You know what I mean?
100%.
That's pretty exciting that Amazon's giving that ability.
Yes.
Because I think Amazon knows probably deep down inside, like they can have all the SOPs and scripts or whatever, but their staff isn't going to know everything about every product.
Or anything about any of it.
I was trying to give them a little bit of
believe, Kevin, I like Voss water. So Voss, if you're listening here, I'm here. I'd love to push your product. But
link down below.
Yes. Give me a affiliate link. I get those by the case, and we've had cases come in broken because it's glass. And the moment you go in and try to get either support or a refund has been a nightmare. And
you're buying it from Amazon or
Voss?
You're buying it from Amazon?
Buying it from Amazon. And so, they'll tell you, you can't return, and everything up until you get to the chat, you can't return. This is not eligible. And then you finally find a way to get to somebody on the chat side, and then you tell them, and inevitably, for the cases that have been broken, they've provided a refund. But that's all they have the option to do. But with this type of support, you're engaging the customer. So you can, like you said, somebody that could have given you a 1-star, you turn that around like in the mouse kingdom, right? You make them happy. They're more likely to give you a higher rating or a review because you took something where they're irate. God damn it, you guys are scammers and you're robbing me, and you sent me the pink one and I wanted the black one. You hear all that stuff.
Why did you do this? You ruined my day.
You ruined my
day. It's all
day.
your fault.
It's all your fault. And sometimes, sir, hit the on button. problem solved, or hit the restart and problem solved, and then they're happy as can be. And so for those that don't know that, check into it. Amazon has this post support capability. You'll find your customers will be much happier when they can reach you as a product expert versus a gal or guy that's sitting in 13 time zones away in another country.
Right. Kevin, I'm going to test that theory. I'm going to pay closer attention to the reviews that are coming in. A lot of the reviews, we put a lot of attention to negative 2-star, 1-star, 3-star reviews. It's nice to see 4 and 5-star reviews. We get a lot of those, but the ones that really catch our attention are anything that may have gone wrong. So now that we've implemented this support piece, I'm going to pay more attention to those 4 and 5-star reviews to see if they're specifically calling out any post-sales support, because I think I would agree with you on that a lot. So I'm curious to see it for myself.
Yeah, I've had customers were sent the wrong product for whatever reason, and I just fix it. And they actually were like commented about it in a review on Amazon. So I would imagine you guys being in something that needs more customer service, more issues would come up, whether it's user error or whatever, getting people more comfortable with the product. You should definitely see an increase there. There should be a correlation between more chances to fix the problem and getting 4 and 5-star reviews, assuming the issues are fixed to the customer satisfaction.
Right. And that's all we want. That's all we want, because the more complex the product, the more touches the customer can have with you, whether pre or post, the less friction you have in the entire process, from the beginning of the line all the way when you get to the fuzzy rope and they let you in, the better. Now, speaking of fuzzy rope and the beginning and ending of line, I want to have a little fun with you, Kevin, in this segment that we have.
Well kept secrets, gotta keep them safe and sound well. But secrets are just like diamonds.
By the way, that was written by Eddie.
By Eddie, okay.
By Eddie, and the
Eddie
song was written by another, I don't know, we'll call her Elvira. Elvira wrote actually this composition. It was all AI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was the graphic AI too?
That was our producer, Ori.
Oh, okay, got it. Not quite there yet, but it's
not quite there. We you could do DALL-E and all those other things. We'll still have a hand in it. We won't let it be 100% AI.
Yeah.
I want to share with you and dialogue with you about best kept secrets, and I'm calling it the top 3 things for 2023. Number 3, and you touched on it. External traffic going to Amazon. And I wouldn't say you stole my thunder, but you're reinforcing exactly the notion that Amazon is right now changing. This wasn't the case 3-4 years ago. Right now it is. And those sellers that are paying attention should pay attention to bringing external traffic, because it boosts relevancy, organic ranking, and so forth. What do you say to that?
I'd say it could be a very good strategy with an asterisk.
Okay.
It depends. Everything in business has the word "it depends" on it, and there's no sacred cows. So anytime you control traffic, meaning they're on a list that you say, I want to send this right now, and you hit a button and it sends an email to people, that is traffic you control. That is the best type of traffic, because a percentage of them will click on whatever links you put in there, and a percentage of people that click on the links will buy whatever it is you ask them to buy. The challenge with external traffic is it can take a long time to build up an audience that's monetizable, or it can be very expensive. So if you're selling a $12 calculator, external traffic is probably not a good strategy for you.
Yeah, there's no margin for that, right?
There's no margin for it. On Amazon, you can kind of look at ACOS, and as a percentage of the sale of your product, and Amazon, it works that way. Whereas on almost all other ad networks, there is a minimum expense to acquire a customer.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could lose money in some cases if you're selling supplements, or if you have products like what you have, where somehow down the line, just because they're familiar with your brand, they might buy your higher ticket services, or they might be likely to be a B2B company.
Yep.
It might make sense. one thing I've dabbled in, and this might be something that some people might be like, Kevin, I never thought you would say this, is cold emails.
Okay.
So
please, this is a topic we've been talking around internally a lot lately. What's going on with cold emails that we should know as a seller?
yes. So cold emails, I've dabbled with cold emails. And let's just say you have a use case and it's something where maybe it could be somewhat graphical in nature or something where I'll use yours as an example. Let's say you're sending out to companies that you have these headsets, and whether or not you actually have them engraved on them or you just Photoshop it, but on the side, it's their logo.
Get ready for a pro tip.
Yes. So let's say you were going to do cold emails, which that's a whole other podcast to research into how to even do cold emails. Do not do cold emails with your regular domain unless you just want to destroy it. Don't use MailChimp or whatever you're using to do cold emails. There are services like Lemlist that are exactly for this particular thing. But if you want people to actually look at your emails, everything has to be looked through the lens of WIFM. That's the radio station they're listening to. What's in it for me? And one of the things people like is to see something that represents them that doesn't look like the email was copied and pasted. And one of those things, it could take more time and effort, but you could Photoshop the logo of the company onto the side of the product. So it makes them feel more like, oh, this is something we would be using because there's our logo there.
Love it. That's a great tactic. Dave, are you taking notes?
I'm taking notes. I hope our media team is listening.
No, it's worth testing out. I'll just say that.
Absolutely. I'm duly noted. Duly noted. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm trying.
Let's go to number 2. I don't know if about you, Kevin, but stuff is really changing on Amazon, the way they are approaching the legal aspect of sellers and rules that apply to them, apply to Amazon, therefore they're applying it to sellers. So understanding how strict Amazon is right now, there just recently a ruling came out on the FTC side about supplements and the language that you need to have, and they're striking down listings that have claims of any sort. We're seeing an uptick on that, and I've seen in a couple of the Facebook groups that I belong to validating that. And then the other one that's really creeped up in an interesting way is the Prop 65 warning that you have to apply to your product. Now, something I heard recently, and I'd love to see if anything or heard about this or add that, because California, the Prop 65 is strictly a California thing, there right now is an open season against sellers that don't have that warning on their listings. And Amazon, which was the one defending some of these claims and lawsuits, is now essentially passing down the responsibility to the seller in trying to defend it, because in the business agreement you have with Amazon, you're going to hold them harmless, right? That's part of the deal. So Amazon, from what I heard from a lawyer say, that in their discussions with Amazon, they are then holding hostage funds for the sellers if a Prop 65 thing comes against them. And they're making it, yes. And they were able to come to some agreement within the Amazon legal team to understand, hey, you shouldn't hold the entire funds, like all your money. So there's a limit right now on what they're doing with that. But it's this, I never heard about this until literally just a couple weeks ago. So Amazon's getting more strict. They're getting more mature. There's more heat on them, and the heat is flowing down.
I have a slightly different take on that. I don't think Amazon's strict at all.
Oh, okay. Enlighten me.
So yes, people are going to say, Kevin, it doesn't make any sense. Hear me out here.
All right.
When I was at the Magical Place, I was a restaurant manager. We had 3 layers of oversight for like health and sanitation. We had the state of Florida Health Department, which would come in maybe once or twice a year, look around, everything is great. Here you go. You did great. Then the company had a kind of internal health department, and they would maybe once or twice a quarter come in and inspect. And they were a little stricter than the state of Florida was. Then there was more localized to the park I was in. Somebody would go around to all the park. This person, their entire job was to go around to the banquet catering department and 7 or 8 restaurants, whatever the number was at the time. This person was in the restaurants every week, like looking for dust under a box in a closet that no one ever looks at, like looking for everything. They were going out of their way. Amazon.
This is your internal inspector.
This is the internal inspector.
Okay.
Amazon does not have a culture of internal inspectors that are going above and beyond. I think Amazon is 100% reactive, and they're very libertarian, but they're just not libertarian enforcing. They don't go out of their way to create new rules. It's only when it's forced upon them by government entities.
I see. Okay.
So with that lens, everything we know that Amazon has come down on people, whether it's pesticides or Prop 65 or whatever else, it's not because Amazon says, hey, we might have to get in front of this issue. No, it probably was a letter from some lawyer, from someone, because they don't want to get involved in all that.
They don't.
So, yeah. So just know there's somewhere where you got to see the writing on the wall, what legislations are coming out, what places.
Mm-hmm.
I would love if Amazon were to say, hey, like in the European Union, you can say only turn on my inventory storage or sales in certain countries, and that maybe you could geo-fence certain states or out of certain states if that was an issue for your product. That would be if I had any wish list for Amazon, because as we're seeing the direction in this country, we're going to end up with 2 countries in essence of 2 different philosophies. I don't want to get political, but there's going to be some states that go one direction and some states go another direction.
Yep.
Florida and California are probably the polar opposites.
Yeah.
And so
One's
kind of say
and one
in between,
one is more desserty.
Exactly. And maybe your products do better in a California environment, and maybe your products do better in a Florida environment.
Uh-huh.
And I wish it'd be nice if over time we had a little bit more control over that. But that's just a thought.
It sounds like, what you're touching on. There's another thing that was very popular probably a year ago, where a bunch of states turned on the you must send us the sales tax thing. And then, you have inventory in the state of Washington, or you have inventory in California. Not only sales tax, but now you got Nexus. So you got to pay a franchise income, all of these things. And at some point, there are some states, there's like a common sales tax form for, I think we have to get in that direction, because if bigger companies, this is where I think the levers get pulled. When the bigger companies start pulling these levers and saying, hey, come on, Amazon, you got me doing 500 things just to sell one product, then we may see some change. But until then, I don't know if the different municipalities are going to get together and gang up on Amazon and say, yeah, do this across the whole country. That theoretically could happen. That happened under the tobacco lawsuits, where 40 some states got together and said, hey, tobacco companies, all you pay out to all of us. And then that happened. That'd be the other lever that would be pulled. But under the current regime of California and Florida, we're just going to have to deal with it until something changes.
But the reality is it's going to keep changing. Like in 2015, in some ways, state sales tax is a lot cleaner than it was in 2016, 2017, before the South Dakota case came on board.
Oh, it was a mess. But that's because Amazon stepped in and said, okay, we're going to start collecting, because the states said, I don't want to collect from 10,000 sellers in California or whatever. Right. Just Amazon, pay us in one big shot every month from your bank account.
Yeah, I'm no lawyer. I have no dog in the fight and what happens where it doesn't. It's just more just commentary on where I see things going.
Sure.
But I truly believe Amazon, to use the example of marketplace facilitator, I don't think Amazon necessarily said, hey, sellers, we're going to start doing this for you as a service to get ahead of this. It was because there was legislation in certain states. And then after the Supreme Court ruling, a bunch of states started saying, let's do this. And then other states started following suit and having their own legislation. And so then Amazon's like, all right, we have to, so let's do it. But to your point too, we also have to remember there's a push-pull with powerful forces that we're just stuck in the middle of as sellers. You have large companies like Amazon, but to your point, there's also large companies that have a lot at stake selling on Amazon. They're big brands that they're not selling in malls anymore, and they have to sell their stuff online, and Amazon is the biggest place to do that. So, collectively they have a lot of pull, and they probably have people in Washington, D.C. who shake hands and kiss babies to influence stuff. And so
no doubt. I'm 20 minutes from that place where there's a lot of that action is going on. And that there are, let's call them influencers in one way or another.
Right, influencers.
They are the K Street influencers plus a whole bunch of other influencers running around town here, which brings me to the last piece of this top 3 things for 2023. Influencer marketing becoming the mainstream. The growth is exponential. What are your thoughts? I know my thought here is that I'm seeing and hearing and talking to other sellers that when they get the right influencer or influencers promoting their product online, they have seen results just increase overnight. I heard an example the other day of a company who didn't even pay this influencer to talk about their product, but she mentioned it on a TikTok. Just, hey guys, I tried this and it really is such a time saver. Yada, I loved it. I don't get paid, but I would recommend it to everybody. And like overnight, they went from selling something like 100 units a day to like 600 units a day off of that one TikTok from somebody they didn't even pay. What's your thoughts on the influencer marketing right now?
Yes. Influencer marketing, again, it depends on your product. And it goes back to there's so many levers we can pull. So is the juice worth the squeeze? And the time and effort it's going to take you to figure it out. Does it make sense? If you have a visually appealing product or a product that maybe could use some explanation, then it makes sense. And who's the influencer and who's watching them? So there was, after the Super Bowl, I guess Mr. Beast responded to some tweet. And for those who aren't familiar with Mr. Beast, just look him up. He's like the biggest YouTuber. The Super Bowl commercial was like $7 million.
He was in one of them, but for like 2 seconds.
Oh, was he? Oh, gotcha.
Yes.
I missed
he
that
was
one.
But he was, I don't know if it was Doritos or one. He had a 3-second little bit where he said something in one of them. I forget what that was.
Well, his point was that you could spend to, 100 million, 200 million people watch the Super Bowl or whatever to reach them at 7 million. He goes, but I have a way you could reach that many people for less money. So he has a way. So it's going to be less expensive than traditional advertising, which outside of sports, most people aren't watching the commercials. Sports, you at least are tied into live because people want to know in the moment, if their team scores. But outside of that, more and more attention is put on niche areas. So to use Mr. Beast as an example, I noticed that sometimes my kids love watching him, but sometimes we'll have Domino's Pizza suddenly is delivering a pizza in the middle of the video. They paid for that. Or that's more product placement, or sometimes it'll like, this video is sponsored by Honey, the app.
Yeah, he does that. He does some of that. Yeah. In his videos. He's getting big name brands, Capital One and a couple of
exactly.
that are
if you are a big name brand, it makes sense to get on a Mr. Beast where it's the size of the audience. But for most of us, it's not about the size of the audience, it's about the quality of the audience and who are they. For example, for you guys, you don't have to have Mr. Beast size audience to have a value in people wanting to get in front of your audience, because Amazon sellers are a very valuable audience.
Yeah.
And so it really just depends on where is the audience and who's watching it and how niche are they in specific and how good of a fit are they for your product, which I think that's where people need to focus on and not worry about, I want to find another Mr. Beast, because Mr. Beast isn't going to respond to you. Even if he's less expensive than a Super Bowl commercial, you're not going to get the return on investment there.
Mr. Beast, for most Amazon sellers, probably not the right influencer. There may be one or two or some out there, but it takes some research from what you're telling me.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Check. We're going to check. Absolutely. All right. So what we want to do here is Here's another game we want to play with you. Since you were a longtime referee, you were in the middle of the action, so to speak, for football games. So this should come really natural to you. What is the first word that comes to mind when I give you these words?
Okay.
Number one. Here we go. Word or phrase that comes to mind. FBA.
Opportunity.
Amazon advertising.
Necessary.
Chinese sellers.
Learn from each other.
Amazon seller support.
Please improve.
Amazon Q&A video responses.
Interesting.
Drone deliveries.
Pipe dream.
Walmart versus Amazon.
Amazon.
Elon Musk.
Generational.
The future of Alexa.
At the prime.
And lastly, Jeff Bezos.
Thank you.
Yeah. All
Good.
right. Well, we want to thank Kevin for being such a good sport with our games. And so, Kevin, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, say, I need to talk to you, how do we do that?
Well, I do have some virtual summits coming up. I have summits about every quarter. You can always go to maximizingecommerce.com/wait, WAIT, and you can sign up for the wait list to find out about an upcoming summit and join us. I always make them super affordable and have lots of great people on.
You just had one recently that was almost, I wouldn't want to say free, but it was really like $7 for the virtual, which was amazing for the value. Could have been $7,000 with all the speakers that were on there. So we've been talking to Kevin Sanderson as part of our Amazon series on growing your business faster on Amazon. I want to thank you personally for coming on, Kevin. You've
Thanks.
really dropped some serious knowledge today. And I want to thank you for listening today. And if you've enjoyed this, go ahead and check out our other guests. Stephen Pope was on here talking about ChatGPT at length and making predictions about where Amazon was going. So you want to check him out, as well as Kevin King, another very smart gentleman. You can find all of those episodes on circuitloops.com or wherever you consume your podcasts. So I want to thank you for tuning in today as part of our Amazon series show.
Thanks for listening to What the Tech. Be sure to check out our other episodes featuring awesome tech and amazing guests. Find them on circuitloops.com or wherever you consume your favorite podcasts.